Hi guys, it's Cheryl St.Pierre, and in this video I haven't figured out a name. Let's see if we can figure out a name. Well, I called the bracelet the leaf link chain bracelet, so we might as well call this the leaf link chain necklace. And I've given it a different style, give it a little bit of pizzazz, and oh, my phone just did something weird. Sorry, it caught my attention. I'm going to pull this upwards so you can take a look at it. Now, I've added a little dangle here. I just thought it finished it off nicer. You could leave it without, but I just gave it this cute little wrap, and I thought it was just a nice little detail. And then it made it a V with the chain going up one side, and then matching bead chain going up the other side, and then have the chain. I don't have the clasp on yet because I'm going to personalize the size for a customer or myself, and you've got a nice elegant leaf necklace. Okay, so I will have some links to some items that are affiliate links to Amazon for the US. I haven't got myself set up in Canada yet. Don't know if I really want to. No, I don't know if it's necessary, but anyway, so I appreciate you checking it out, and I've given you some other options of cabochons. I do offer these ones for sale. I think I've already mentioned that in the next to come video for you, which I've already done. And yeah, so let's go on from here. Okay, so for supplies, you're going to need some 4mm rondelle crystals that match whatever cabochon you're using. Just remember, I am offering to make these for you, and I've got it in when you go to my main page. If you click on comments, or community rather, I have comments there, and you can write under my comment whether you would like to purchase it. I have it written down there how much as well. Right now I'm just offering shipping to the US and Canada for cost purposes. If you're in the UK or Australia, just message me, and I'll have to charge you additional for shipping for sure. Okay, so that's what we need. We don't know how many 4mm rondelles you need precisely. Just have them ready on hand, and it'll depend on how long your necklace is and how long you want your necklace to be, of course. And your links that you've made ahead of time, you need 5 of them, and we will talk about them a little bit later. And let's see, you will need some chain. Now, so chain, this is kind of tricky with making the length you want, so you almost need more to finish your chain than what you're anticipating, just so that it's better to have more than too little. But we don't know what length you will need till you've got your other product finished, and then we'll add on to it, and then deal with it accordingly. And some 22 gauge wire. You can use 20 gauge wire, but with 4mm rondelles, it's easier to work with, and it's not as bulky with the rondelles. Okay, and for tools, of course, if you haven't made your links yet, you will need all the equipment to make those links. So I could put all that equipment in the description as well. But if you've already got them made, you will only need your round nose pliers, your chain nose pliers, your flush cutters, and a ruler. You definitely need a ruler. Okay, so I think that's it. Otherwise, you would need your hammer and your anvil and all that stuff. but that'll be written in the description. Now I am going to try and link in the top right hand corner the link directly to the bracelet video where I teach you how to make the links. I haven't done that in a long time, and I'm not sure. Google's had so many changes, I can't keep up with them all, but I'm thinking it should be still the same way, so I will try to do that. And I will, once the earrings are done, I'll put them in the left hand corner, and I will do similar in the other videos too. So check out the corners and see if I've got that done. Hopefully I'll succeed with that. Forgive me if I don't. Okay, so I think we're ready to move on. So the first thing I want to do is talk about the links. So with a necklace, this is just as important as with a bracelet. You want the flow, and I gotta get in the center here. You want the flow to be fairly level. And if your link here is, or loop here is way down here, which can happen, I'm going to move these out of the way. You need to take this and bend it upwards so that it's more of a flat line. And saying as much, you might have to bend that too, because that was facing up a little bit, and then it's all more level. Now do that, all those checks with all of your links, and then we're just like with the bracelet, we're just putting all 5 links together. So I'm going to do that off camera to save time, because I'm trying to keep this video fairly short, and I'll be back like magic when it's done. Okay, so I have them all linked together. They're sitting fairly level, and so the next step we're going to do is make the little cutesy drop for at the bottom of the necklace. And so I just want you to take, I haven't pre-measured anything, some working wire. That means, when I say working wire, that means you just snip off a length of wire that you're going to work off of, and so it uses less, it makes less waste because you're only snipping off one end instead of 2. So when you do a pre-length thing, when you make drops and stuff like that, it actually wastes more wire than having one long working wire that you can work off of. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is make my favorite size loop. It might maybe a little bit bigger because it's going to dangle on that, and this is 18 gauge, so it's thicker. So I'm going maybe a little bit bigger than my favorite size loop, and just make, first we're making a P loop, and then we're turning it into an I loop by pushing on it there. So it's an I loop, and it's not quite round, so I'm going to move that out of the way. So I'm actually going to, I should have done this before I made it into an I loop. I'm just going to snip off that little end there, and then do it again. Just makes it neater looking. Not that it really, you can see it, because it's going to be in a position that you won't be able to see it. Now we're going to work hard on this because this is 22 gauge. It's fairly delicate, and I'm just going to do the pulsating. I'm squeezing it in pulses like this, and I'm going to work hard on it that way, nice and tight. And because you don't want it to, so now it's really hard. It's not going to open up. Okay, so now I'm putting the bead on, just one of the rondelles. I'm putting this on because I just think it gives a cute little finish to the bottom of the link. You don't, it's not required. I just like it. And so this, it's not always easy to have your loop going the right direction, but you want it going up and down like this. And so we can adjust it later if it doesn't work. And I'm just going to do a tiny cutesy little curl at the bottom here, like so. And then I'm just going to go like this. so that it looks like this. Okay. Just bringing it in a little bit closer. Of course, I should move the camera. And then I'm going to wrap once around the base of that loop. So it looks like this. And I'm going to snip right there. And this is where it saves on the waist, is because now I can work from there for the next item I make. Okay, so right here. And then I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and just cinch it in as tight as possible. And I'm going to push it down like this as well. Okay. And that is going to be the little drop at the bottom, and we can put it on right now, actually. So you're going to open up your link, and yours opening might be in a different position than mine. I can't even tell which side my opening is, so I have to try and work on both. Oh, it's on this one. Okay. And I just have to make sure it's going the right direction. Yes, I guessed right. Okay. And if I hadn't, I would just turn it around. Now I'm going to close that up. And make sure it's sitting straight like so. Okay. And then it just gives that tiny little cutesy dangle at the bottom. I find it adorable. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to build, and I might need to go and grab more of these, I'm not sure. We want to build a chain that is just as, okay, so we're going to put it here actually, because this is going to sit like this. And we're going to build it so that it is about the same length as this length. And here I'm going to go back down. Oops. Whoop. There we go. So you can see that. Okay, so we need to build, and we might as well start from attaching it here and then build it so it's a V, so it's equivalent to this. And then we will put one more link on both of them, or you could have more, that's your choice, to add to the chain so that it is similar in shape. So depending on what size your links are and how your wrapping is, excuse me, will decide how many of the beads you need. So it's a play by ear type of thing. And I'm just going to start with making a loop to go around here. And so we need it big enough. And it's going to be a wrapped loop. So there's always waste with that. So I'm on my round nose pliers, I am using as large a size as I can to make my wrapped loop. And we will work hard on that too. Okay, so there's my loop. It caught on the corner of my pliers. So I'm not sure. I think I might start again, straighten it out, start again. And that's okay because it's work hardening the wire. And at this point we can. I'm trying not to mar the wire, but I'm work hardening it a little bit. Much better. Okay, so I'm happy with that. And I'm going to do 3 wraps. That's 2 and 3, and it's messy. Okay, so it's gonna be, oh shoot, I forgot to put it on there. So now you've had a lesson on it. We needed to put it on. So I have to start again, and that's okay. So it's okay. I always let you see my mistakes. And that's, everybody makes mistakes. So then got the loop. Okay, and it's nice and round. I'm going to work harden it first before we put it on there. So I should do the pulsating thing again. Pulsating tension into the wire to make it hard and strong. And that's good. I'm opening it up a little bit so it can slide on here. Okay, so I've got that. So now, this is going to be a bit awkward because this is such an unusual shape. I'm going to hang on to the circle. Oh, I'm going to bring them in closer. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so I closed up the loop again, and we'll do 3 wraps. So 1, 2, and we want the end to go to the underside, but we want to make sure we crimp it in once the bead's on so that it doesn't poke when we wear it. Okay. And that can flip around on us too, so that not necessarily saying it will stay at the bottom. But it's got, my loop is big enough that it does have the freedom of movement. Okay, so I'm snipping it off as close as I can. Careful not to clip anything off that we don't want clipped off. And I'm just going to push up the wraps in case it wasn't bad, but I like to show to do that because that way if yours needs tightening up, and then my loop and my wraps need to be straight. This is thinner wire, so it might end up bending later anyways, but we'll do the best we can. And I'm clipping off this end because it's bent. I obviously used that end last time. Okay, putting on the bead. Making sure everything lines up straight. And it doesn't matter what direction your loop is facing. You can be picky about it, but you don't need to be. Okay, and I'm trying to make it so I have 3 wraps again. Might not work for me. And I'm going to make my loops in them. I want to be consistent, so I'm going to use the middle of my shank of my pliers to be consistent with size. Either that or you can put a marker with, oh, that's going to be too many wraps. Maybe not. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. That worked out not too bad. And I'm just gonna cinch that up. Snip it off as close as I can. Okay, so now we're gonna crimp in the ends so that they don't poke out or poke anybody. And make it nice and neat. Okay, so it's going to be sitting like that. Okay, so there's the start. So now I'm going to continue making it, adding more onto the chain until it is a similar length as this. So my length is in inches, about 3 inches. So I'm going to try and make 3 inches of chain beads. And so you could measure, it's an approximate, it doesn't have to be exact, but as close as you can get to it. Okay, so I'll be back when mine is done. Okay, so I have approximately 3 inches of chain made, and I took 5 beads to do that. You might have a totally different number, so it's a play by ear thing. Absolutely, it's not quite exactly the same length, I don't think. It's hard to really tell, but it's yeah, because it's having to go around. So it's close, and we need now, you're going to only need, after you've gotten that fairly matching length, you only need 2 more rondelles. So I'm using 5, 6, 7, 8 rondelles in total count when you count the drop here for this necklace. So you might need 9, you might need 10. That's up to you. Depends what your how many wraps you do on your chain, the size of your loops, so many variables. So anyway, so I'm using, I said 8, right? 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add 1 more bead. Then we're going to add the chain and add a bead at the end of it. So I'm going to add 1 more bead, and then, and I need to snip off some more working wire because I used up the last. I would say you probably are going to use approximately 2 feet of 22 gauge, but don't quote me on that because you might have to do a loop more than once. It all depends on how good you are remembering on actually putting it on. So I'm going to walk through the steps again of making the chain as I do this last one, because it's always good to do the checks. So I'm going to get this out of the way. I've got about 1.5 inches here, 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. And I'm just going to do that forward bend. Then I'm laddering up my pliers to the size that I want my loop, which is the center of my plier. The center going this way. And now I'm pushing tightly against my plier to get a nice crisp circle. And when we push that forward, it automatically helped us make an eye loop. Now, I don't know if anybody's explained that step to you. So if you don't have an eye loop, you need to turn it into an eye loop. And it needs to be nice and centered for it to look nice and neat. And now you can choose to work hard. Right now is a good time to work hard in this. So not too hard, just a little bit of pulsating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's probably enough. Now I'm going to open up this ring a little bit so that I can slide the chain onto it. Now I'm closing that ring up again, grabbing it with my pliers, and I'll come in closer. Grabbing it with my chain nose pliers like so. Some people grab it with the round nose pliers. For 1, it's going to mar your wire. For 2, it's not very sturdy and it's going to wobble around on you. Use your chain nose pliers, or if you prefer flat nose pliers. I can use the chain nose pliers where I use flat nose pliers, so I just choose just to have the 3 pliers, my flush cutters, my round nose pliers, and my chain nose pliers. Those are my all-time faves. And I am wrapping 3 times. It looks like 4, but it's 3, and it's kind of messy, but okay. I'm going to snip it off as close as I can. like so. Now I'm going to straighten out those wraps. Sometimes you can get it really straight, but you know what? For the extra time it takes you to make them really straight as you're going, which there's no guaranteed success, you could put that time into straightening it. Okay, now I'm happy with it. It's sitting nice. Put the bead on. And now you need to figure out on your pliers what distance is the sweet spot to make it so that you can have 3 wraps. And it will take practice. You might want to do a practice chain before you actually do your actual piece, just so you get the sweet spot. And if you like, you can mark it on your pliers with a marker. And I am making it so each, or try to, where, well, they're different. It doesn't matter which way the loops are facing. It's going to look pretty no matter what. And to the visual eye, it can't tell if you've got them dead on or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so now again, center of my pliers to make my loop because I want consistency. And this time we are introducing the chain, so we do not want to close this loop. So again, I'm going to work hard on it. At this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pulses, and I'm grabbing my chain, but I don't know how much I want yet. So what I'm aiming for a total length of 22 inches because I can always shorten it later. And look at that, it's sitting the opposite way and it doesn't matter. It's versatile, whichever way you want it to face. It doesn't matter. So what distance I am measuring, and it will end up being longer by over an inch of what we want, but we can shorten that later. Because I'm not going to put the clasp in now. I will put the clasp in once I know who is buying this necklace, or if it's for myself, what length I prefer it to be. And so that we can do later. But I am just, oh man, this ruler is totally wearing out. Okay, so I'm measuring this, and this is approximately 6.5. It's a little bit more than 6.5 inches. So because we're going to be adding an extra chain over on this end, I'm going to go count it as 7 inches. And so 22 inches minus 7 is 15, correct? I believe it is. So I want to put 15 inches of chain onto it. So I'm going to cut 15 inches of chain. Now, you might want to do this in a totally different way, and that's okay. I'm just showing you how I'm doing it. So I measure first 10, because it's easier to work with 10s, and then 5. And if you're going metric, you know, it's 2.5 centimeters to an inch. So I'm going 15 inches, and you would just multiply that by 2.5. So I'm not going to do that for you. You can calculate that on your own. Okay, so I've got my chain ready, and I am going to put it on the other end of this. And you will see what I'm doing in a minute, why I'm doing it this way. Okay, and now I'm going to finish wrapping that loop. I'm out of camera, sorry. And it's going to get tangled, and it is. It's tangled, and which makes it hard to make neat wraps. Okay, I think that should be good. And I'm going to snip that off. And my wraps aren't sitting very nice, and that's okay because we're going to fix it. So what I mean by that, oh, and I should what am I zoomed in? I'm at zoomed in really close. That's why I was out of camera so easily. Okay, so I'm just, and if I need to snip that off more, I will. But I'm just going to, oh, it's going to work out just fine. So I'm just going in the direction that it's wrapped, and I'm squishing it in that direction. As you see, I'm twisting it as I go, and it just tightened them up and made it good. And now it looks nice and neat. And at this point, you should check all, because it's easy to forget to crimp in an end. Check all your ends because you don't want it poking anybody or yourself. And you can adjust your loops if you want them to sit in a specific way. Okay, so it doesn't end on that, it ends on this. So remember, this loop opens up, so we don't have to worry about double ending the next loop. We are just going to put a bead at this end of this chain and then attach it into that open loop afterwards. So that's why I'm doing the chain all in one. It just makes things simpler, and then we can determine what the center of the chain is to snip it to for where to put your clasp. So I'm going to do that. I don't think you need to watch me add a bead onto that end of the chain. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have that bead put on. I virtually have the size of the loop pretty much the same. It might be a smidge bigger just to give it a little bit of extra size for that end. So I'm going to open up this loop, give it a twist, put this on, close it up, and you want to make sure it's closed up enough that this can't slide out, and that seems to be good. Okay, so where am I? I'm going to back out a little bit. Oops, sorry. And there it is. Chain complete. It's hard to get it in the screen, but that's what it looks like. And I know for the front of the video, I will have to probably figure out how to get this completely in the camera. I might just make the camera go the other direction for that little bit of video. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so there it is. I think it turned out quite nice. I think it's a little bit short on this side, but then this loop can adjust. Oh, there you go, and it's more equal. Okay, and as it spreads apart, it's harder to tell. Well, thank you for joining me. Bear in mind, I have the affiliate links in the video, in the description of the video, and it really helps me when you click on them. And check out, you know, I'll give you some ideas. I'm going to put a link for some cabochons that will work well with this in there. I'll probably look for a few types for you. And, you know, if you don't want this type of cabochon like what I make, there is some gemstone cabochons that would work just beautifully as well. And then you can just figure out what type of rondelles would match it, and take it from there. So thank you, God bless, and we will see you in the next one. Bye for now.